So in 2016, we got Don't Breathe, which quickly became one of my all-time favorite horror movies. Now, 5 years later, we've now got the sequel, even if no one was really asking for it. So going into this movie, I was very nervous, and I wouldn't even really say I was very excited. I was going into it with kind of lower expectations because I thought the way the first movie ended was a perfect way to end off this kind of, well, it's a franchise now. I thought it was a great way to end off the blind man story, and just to end off everything. I thought the only way you could do a sequel is if you're going to follow a continuation of the girl on the poster here, and the blind man, either blind man trying to get his money back or her trying to get whatever, trying to get the justice for her two friends, whatever was going to happen. I thought that was the only way they could do a sequel. But then when it was announced that she wasn't coming back for the sequel, and that for the sequel they were going to make the blind man kind of protagonist, not really the protagonist, but in a way he's the good guy of this movie. I was thinking to myself, how the hell are they going to make him the good guy, especially after, if you have seen the first movie, he is anything but a good guy. He is a horrible person. So I was kind of wondering, how the hell are they going to make him the good guy? And then I went to see the movie, and I didn't like it. I really didn't like this movie. It's not the worst horror movie of the year, but it's definitely up there. The action scenes they're there, but the blind man definitely feels nerfed. Even though you could look at it in the first movie, he was just fighting a bunch of teenagers breaking into his home, and these people are drug lords, part of a drug cartel, so you can understand why. But he just feels very nerfed. He feels like he's not fully capable of doing what needs to be done. There's a scene in the movie where instead of killing someone, he just glues their mouth shut, and I was kind of going, why the hell did you do that? Do you just do that for the cool effect of seeing someone with their mouth glued shut? Stuff like that just baffled me. Instead of killing people, he was saving people throughout the movie. Instead of killing them, he was sparing their lives, and I just thought that was a really weird thing to do, especially judging off what he had done in the previous movie. As well, the blind man, like, I didn't like him in the first movie. How could you like him in the first movie after seeing what he does? But in this movie, since they were trying to flip him around and make you like him in ways where situations where there's a dog and he decides to save the dog, stuff like that, trying to make the audience see why you should like him, just made me like him even less. Just seeing the kind of director and the writer trying to make you like him made me just like the character even less because of what we've seen him do in the previous movie. Now, as I said, he is the protagonist, so he's up against the people, which is a drug cartel. I can't think what else to call them. And they were fine. They weren't the best. Like, if you look at the first movie, I loved the teenagers going up against a blind man in his own home. This movie, I think the first bit, when they're in his own home, I found that good. It wasn't on the same level as the first movie. It was nowhere near the first level. It wasn't on the same level as the first movie, anywhere near it. But I still enjoyed it. I still thought it was good action, good horror. Not as many horror as it was in the first movie. There was so many scenes that you can kind of see, kind of look very similar to the first movie. But for the most part, that was the best part of the movie. But once they leave the house, I lost interest. I really did. I was getting bored. For a lot of this movie, I found it very boring. My audience, the crew with me, I'd say there was about 20, maybe 30 people there. And from start to finish, there wasn't a single word. No gasps, no shocks, no fear, nothing whatsoever was coming from this audience. And as soon as it was over, no one said a word. They all just got up and left. I think a lot of people were going in with higher expectations, and everyone in that room was disappointed. Because the horror's not there. The action, as I said, it's grand. It's not as good as the first, but it's not the best. The way the movie goes towards the end, I was thinking, oh, brilliant, is this what the sequel's going to be? But then it quickly changes in a matter of seconds, and I was instantly disappointed. I kind of hope they just finish it here and don't continue it, because I didn't really love this movie. Honestly, I think the first is brilliant. The first is easily one of my favourite horror movies of all time. I will rewatch the first, and I probably will for the rest of my life, but I have no ambition to ever rewatch the sequel, and I have no ambition of buying the Blu-ray. I don't care about this movie. For me, this movie doesn't really exist because I thought the first one was a perfect one and done movie, and it should have been a one and done movie. Just looking at a movie like It Follows, I've been looking at that movie going, why haven't they done a sequel to this? This is something that is kind of made for a sequel. But Don't Breathe is not that type of movie. I thought it was one and done. It was perfect. It shouldn't have been done as a sequel, and it baffles me why they done it as well, especially why they done it and go down the storyline that they done, because the storyline, it was just a boring storyline. It really didn't keep my interest at all. I didn't care at all. Whatever happened to anybody, I simply didn't care. But let me know your thoughts on Don't Breathe 2 in the comment section down below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Is it better than the first? Or are you like me and think it's a very bad sequel? I have no ambition to ever rewatch it. Let me know all that in the comment section down below. If you want to see future horror content from me in the future, click that subscribe button so you can go back and see more stuff from me in the future. And as always, thanks for watching.